mission for you. A major weapons test is imminent. We need to know how to destroy it.
If you're really doing this, I want to help.
I've been recruiting for the rebellion for a long time.
We destroyed our home. I fight the Empire now.
I fear nothing. All is as the Force wills it.
The captain says you are a friend. I will not kill you.
Thanks.
Where are you taking these prisoners?
He's taking us to
Quiet! And there's a fresh one if you mouth off again.
I got an opportunity to go to the premiere of this movie, which was one of the big thrills of my life, as is coming to ILM. Where was it that Anthony Daniels
gave me the F-bomb
and said F you?
That was at the LA premiere. And
what was the story there? That's the only part of the story I know.
As I was walking down the aisle and I had met him on set, and he had called me a shit because he found out that I was wearing a motion capture suit and I didn't have to
be
as
opposed to a tin can in the middle of the desert.
Yeah. So he's still complaining about the desert in the first, New Hope.
As is his right.
They screwed him into my head and I couldn't get water and Anthony, give it up. No one cares. Did it do well for you? Anyway, we have a fun rivalry. So when I was walking down the aisle, he said, "I'll give you notes when it's done." And I said, "Good. Please write them down so you don't forget any." And then
And it's a little late because we're at the premiere. There's not a lot we can change.
He just wanted to be snarky. And so then afterwards, I saw him, and he looked at me, and he gave me a hug, put his arms out, and then in my ear said, "F you," which was a great compliment. And then he said some very nice things that were straight up compliments. And he said, "And if you tell anyone I said those things, I'm going to deny it." But the other thing he was fine with. So
Tell everyone that.
Yeah, I'm going to see him at Star Wars Celebration. I wonder, because I've spoken about him a lot in interviews. I can only think he'll love
He
me.
may have some additional notes from the post.
Yeah, do your impression of me again, because it tends to be a little bit more sassy than he is. You shit. Like he isn't. He's not that.
I love this idea of picking something out of the opening crawl and saying there's a story in there. Because that's as excited as I am for the new prequel, trilogy that we're getting, and Rian Johnson and all this stuff. I love all these ideas of all these different pockets in the timeline where there's so many things within this established beginning, middle, and end, where there's stories to tell. Is that something you must have been fascinated by that too, to come up with this?
Yeah, well, when Kathy Kennedy came on board and announced this new slate of Star Wars films, of course there's 7, 8, 9, which continuing the Skywalker saga. But a lot of us were intrigued that Kathy also wanted to do these standalone movies that were adventures taking place in the Star Wars universe, but weren't necessarily part of that through line. And that got me thinking about that opening crawl in New Hope, and I read it 1,000 times, and the description of Rebel spaceships striking out of a secret hidden base have just won their first battle against the evil Galactic Empire.
What's the first battle?
Yeah, and so what is that battle? And then during the fighting, Rebel spies stole the plans to the Death Star, and I thought, well, that could be a pretty interesting movie just by itself. It might be fun to tell that story, and that's really where it came from. Was just sort of elaborating on that, kind of figuring out who the characters were and what a story arc would be that would tell that story.
Your live-action cameo. What happened?
Oh, it went on the.
Whose fault was that?
It was a sacrifice for the greater good of the movie. You know what's great about that, or what makes sense about that? So I played an Imperial pilot, which is cool. I got to play another pilot, but my credit was going to be for Ray Nearly. So I'm Alan Tudyk, and then Ray Nearly is the character I play in Con Man. Yeah, who's a sci-fi actor who can't get a break.
Yeah.
So it would be appropriate that if he did get the break in Star
then he
Wars,
gets cut.
It would be cut.
You know what? That makes perfect sense, actually. So it worked out exactly how it should. I want to ask you, as a huge fan of both the Clone Wars and Rebels, two things I'm constantly pushing on people to watch. I understand that you were instrumental in getting some Rebels Easter eggs going in here.
It only made sense given that Rebels takes place very close to the time frame of Rogue One, in some of the same places, since we go to Yavin Base, and think that eventually Rebels is going to end up close to that. It might be fun to have some tie-ins. It would be natural that some of our characters might show up in Rebels or vice versa. And when we're figuring out what ships should be in the big space battle at the end, what should the Rebel fleet at that era consist of?
The Ghost has to be there. Yeah.
Shouldn't the Ghost be in that battle? That'd be kind of fun to do.
So great. Given that this is a self-contained story, but that it was also very successful, and that you were certainly a breakout character that you got to portray, are there opportunities to even voice the character again, to maybe show up? Certainly, he's around during the Rebels era, for example.
You're more in touch with the people who can pull those triggers.
I would love to see that, because I love the character. I love being a part of bringing a new Star Wars droid into the Star Wars universe.
I'd love for Christmas to come without tears, but is it ever going to happen?
Yeah. So I don't have an answer for you, but I'd love to see it. To be honest, I'd love to imagine that somehow or other. Was it you that were saying, maybe when he extracts the information from the other droid, that maybe he actually downloaded your stuff into his head? Somebody was telling me that, and I was like, oh my God, it's a great idea. And then maybe that droid, because it was somewhere else in the complex, survived the big, blast and
How about
complete
this
BS.
one? Cassian and how he finds K2 and some of their adventures together
backstory.
Before
Indeed.
they got all this baggage.
How does he get captured and reprogrammed?
Yeah, and that should totally crisscross with Rebels, so I think it'd be great.
I'm a big prequel defender. It's an argument I get into with friends. Issues with them, but overall I love them. And I liked that Rogue One, we got to see Jimmy Smits as Bail Organa, and some of these things that I feel like maybe in Force Awakens were being shied away from, they're kind of reintroduced here. Does this give us more of an opportunity to go back into that timeline? Are there plans to do things sort of from that era of the Clone Wars?
It's a big, broad universe to play in. It spans thousands of years and hundreds of planets. So I think with a playground that large to tell stories in, that I don't think we'll run out of opportunity anytime soon.